The War Within pre-patch is here, and it's no secret that Destruction Warlock has undergone quite a lot of changes. So then, how are we actually going to play it in this last 4 weeks of Dragonflight? No, we cannot use our hero talents yet. They only come in at level 71. The talent tree has had a big overhaul. Generally, the rotation hasn't changed too much, however. It has had some changes, though, and we are going to go over those today. I'm going to be primarily showing you kind of a single target and AoE rotation within the same talent build. This is it here. This is the single target talent tree. You can see we're taking Rain of Fire, we're taking Cataclysm, etc., etc. You can really fit a lot in. There's a lot of flexibility in the tree now, whereas before I think it did feel a bit more rigid, if you will. I definitely would say it's feeling a bit undertuned from my testing so far. I don't think it's going to come out top on damage or anything. It's really fun to play though, which is a shame, but hey, let's get into it. So how are we going to play? Let's start off by looking at our single target rotation. And actually, I want to preface this by saying, usually my guides are really quite fairly in depth. This one, however, isn't going to be. This is a much more shallow version, generally for people that probably already know Destruction Warlock, and you're more just wanting to know what's changed in your rotation. You've probably been playing it for the entirety of Season 4 already. I will be doing a full guide for Destruction Warlock when the War Within launches, so do be aware of that. If you don't know me and you are new to the channel, I generally am one of the first people to get their guides out when patches launch, and I do every single class. They are a bit more beginner focused rather than advanced. That is one thing to note if you are new here. This, however, is a much more shallow version than I usually do. Check out my Season 4 guides if you're interested. So first things first, we're going to go in and keep Immolate up on our target. Burns the enemy, causing fire damage immediately and more fire damage over X amount of seconds. Periodic damage generates one soul shard fragment and has a 50% chance to generate an additional one when we critical hit with Immolate. If you are new to the class, we basically have something here called soul shards, and we're going to be generating those with some spells and then also spending them with different spells. Now, as I said, go in and use your Immolate and keep this dot or damage over time up on your target at all times. You can also do this with a spell called Cataclysm. Let's just shove it on our bars quickly. You can place it, boom, it's a big cataclysmic event. Who would have thought? If you only have one target, use Cataclysm when you go in rather than Immolate. If you have got multiple targets you're saving to use this on, then just use Immolate. And that's pretty much as far as that bit goes. So to reiterate, if it's single target, use Immolate or Cataclysm. Cataclysm being the preferred option. But if you're like, oh, I'm going to use it on this one target, but then I'm going to have a pack of targets in a minute, then save your Cataclysm for the multi-target, if that makes sense. If there is a second target, what you can do is spec down into Havoc here. I haven't specifically in this build. It is a bit more single target focused. But for this one, basically, I would say to put it on a second target. So Immolate on the first, Havoc on the second, if you do have two targets, like in Mythic Plus, maybe a multi-boss raid, if there's multiple targets. But generally, we're only taking that for multiple targets. And I'm showing you a bit more single target at the moment. Now, one thing I want to mention with our soul shards is we don't want to overcap them. We are going to be using our Chaos Bolt, costing 2 soul shards at the next point in the rotation. So this is from left to right, basically a priority list. So it's going to be keeping up our Immolate, then using our Chaos Bolt to spend those soul shards. Now, one thing you will see here is this talent called Eradication. Chaos Bolt, the one I've just mentioned, and Shadow Burn, more on that in a minute, increase the damage you deal to the target by 5% for 7 seconds. So when we use our Chaos Bolt, we're not just using it to spend soul shards, but we're also trying to keep up this debuff on our target so that we do more damage to the target. After that, we're going to use Conflagrate, and we're going to make sure to actually keep this on cooldown. Triggers an explosion on the target, dealing fire damage, and reduces the cast time of your next Incinerate or Chaos Bolt by 30% for 10 seconds. And this is going to generate 5 soul shard fragments. So we're going to keep this one on cooldown. After that, we're going to use our Dimensional Rift, and again, we're going to use this on cooldown. Rips a hole in time and space, opening a random portal that damages your target. And you can see there's a shadowy, unstable, and chaos tear, firing different types of damage at the target. Generates 3 soul shard fragments. So like at this point, just to recap on how far we are right now, you can see Incinerate has come off the target. Sorry, Immolate, not Incinerate. So we're going to put Immolate back up, keeping that up at all times. We've got a lot of soul shards here. Let's spend them with our Chaos Bolt, keeping up Eradication, again, with our Chaos Bolt. Let's use our Conflagrate on cooldown. Probably a good time to use another Chaos Bolt to keep up, again, our Eradication. Our Dimensional Rift is still on cooldown. Shadow Burn, we're only going to use if the target is at the execute phase. And for us, that is below 20% health. Let's say they are at 20% health or lower. We're then going to use our Shadow Burn, keeping that on cooldown. After that, we're going to use our Channeled Demon Fire whenever we can use it. Launches bolts of fell fire at random targets afflicted by your Immolate. So what you will notice here, that if nobody is afflicted by your Immolate, you won't be able to use this. If you're like, why can't I use this spell? It only works on targets with your Immolate on. Each bolt deals X amount of fire damage and more fire damage to nearby enemies as well. Nothing else to press at this point. Use your Chaos Bolt. And then after that, we're just going to be using our Incinerate. Now, you can see here that our Chaos Bolt has actually procced. Now, this is from a very specific talent called Ritual of Ruin here. Every 10 soul shards spent grants 10... Every 10 soul shards that you spend on your Chaos Bolt grants you Ritual of Ruin, making your next Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire consume no soul shards and have its cast time reduced by 50%. Whenever you see your Chaos Bolt proc, that's because you've spent enough soul shards that has procced the Ritual of Ruin buff. If we have nothing else to use, we're going to use our Incinerate as a filler. So again, what are we going to do in this situation then? Well, Cataclysm, because we've got 2 targets here. We're then going to use our Chaos Bolt to spend our soul shards and keep our Eradication. Keeping our Conflagrate on cooldown, keeping our Dimensional Rifts on cooldown. The target isn't at 20% health or lower, so we're skipping this one. We're going to use our Channeled Demon Fire, going back to Conflagrate. And then we're going to use our Chaos Bolt. We're capped on soul shards. And then we're going to use our Incinerate as a filler. Again, Immolate. Oh my God, Immolate has come off. So we're going to keep that up on our target. Let's keep Eradication up because it's falling off. And then we're going to use our Conflagrate on cooldown. Channel Demon Fire is now back off cooldown. Woohoo for us. And then we're going to be filling with Incinerate. And there you go. That is the rotation. So Summon Infernal is a big cooldown that we can use as well. Summoning an Infernal from the Twisting, never. Pretty much use it on cooldown for pre-patch, that's fine. Impacting for fire damage and stunning nearby enemies. The Infernal will serve you for 30 seconds, dealing damage to all nearby enemies every 1.8 seconds, and generating soul shard fragments as well. And you can see here, you're going to cap out quite quickly when you are using this. For the pet, do use your Fell Hunter. These can interrupt. That is why I love using them. They can actually interrupt. It's over here on your pet bar. You do need to use the ability yourself, but it does give you an interrupt as a Destro Warlock using your pet. Let's now have a quick look at what we're going to do for the AoE rotation, but not much really changes. Using pretty much the same, I would then talent into Havoc, and then pretty much we're just going to open our new fancy spell book. And imagining you've used Immolate and Havoc on the second target, then slotting in the third slot your Rain of Fire, using this to spend your soul shards. Apart from that, you can pretty much just do the same thing. Ritual of Ruin will also affect your Rain of Fire. It's anything that spends your soul shards, basically. So your Rain of Fire and also your Chaos Bolt. They are equally going to be affected by that beautiful talent that we have. And that is pretty much a fairly shallow version of how we're going to use our rotations and the changes that we're doing in the pre-patch for the War Within. Now, again, if you have been watching my Season 4 videos, you will see that it hasn't changed too much. And again, this is a much more shallow version of the guide that I usually do. I just don't think it's worth it my time or your time to really be going into, you know, stat priorities and all of the other shit that we usually look at in my guides, because your gear is probably already maxed out, and, you know, we're going to be in this short phase, this interdictory phase for like what, 4 weeks, so just want to give you, what we're actually doing for the final few weeks of Dragonflight. If you are looking for other guides, check out the playlist here. I am doing pretty much all of them as usual for pre-patch for you. And if you would like to support the channel or get one-on-one help from me, you can do that by joining my Patreon. It really, really supports the channel, especially now that I have a team helping me get all of these videos out. It does become quite costly, and you supporting the channel does mean that I can get videos out faster for you for the specs you want, including for the War Within launch, of course. It does get you a VIP channel in Discord. We have a ton of experts that can help you as well as myself, and you can get my UI here through Elf UI. I give all my UI profiles and stuff and can help you install them as well if that is something that you would like. And if there's nothing else, then I will see you in the War Within.